It feels like so long since I've recorded, and it's 100% so long since I've edited and uploaded. My winter challenge was to read history books. I have like so many history books. I have historical fiction and history books. Obviously, I've been reading the Korean ones to begin with, and that's the only ones I've been able to read. Now, it is the 22nd of March, so technically spring started yesterday. So technically the challenge ended on the 20th. However, I have not finished one book that I wanted to finish before the end. So I'm not ending my winter challenge until that book is finished. But it's not this one. So I will be starting the spring challenge, which is like the self-help books, late. Fine. Whatever. Anyway, that's not important. What is important is I finished this book. I got this book in a charity shop over 4 years ago, because I got it before I came to Korea. And I bought it because it was about Korea, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be living there for a year. Anyway, 5 years later, I'm still here. And I finally read this book. Oh my goodness. This book is incredible. I could talk about this book for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, easily. I had to write notes because I was like, there's so much to talk about. And I wrote a lot of notes throughout the book. Like, this was like the first page. Doesn't look like a lot. There are some pages I have written a lot. And there's some pages I've written absolutely nothing. I want to find the pages I wrote a lot on. Like up here, I wrote notes. I always read with the dust cover off. So I read it where it was just like the white one. But I always put the dust cover back on once I'm done. Yeah, so I read this. What can I say about it? Firstly, I thought Beasts of a Little Land was hard-hitting. It is, because it's about the Japanese occupation of Korea, and it's about what happened to people afterwards. However, I feel like this one is more so, because it talks about the Japanese occupation of Korea, and specifically in Jeju. This one is about Jeju, and it talks about the Japanese occupation of Korea, and it then talks about the afterwards, the 4-3 incident, and everything after that. It basically is like, what, starts in 1919, I think. Well, technically it starts in 2008 because that's the present day. It goes between present and past. So it does present day 2008, but then it goes back to 1938. But even like some of it a little bit before, because she talks about like when she was younger. So about 1938 to 2008. So it's like a 70 to 80 year difference. Time span. It's been like 2 or 3 weeks since I finished this. Follow Young-suk throughout her life. And you get to learn about the Haenyeo, which are the divers, the female divers of Jeju Island. They stay under for minutes at a time. They find seafood. I have been lucky enough to meet them. When I went to Jeju 2.5 years ago, about this time. Like, I went in May. Beautiful weather. And 100%, if you want to go meet them, I met them in Sogyopo. I didn't meet any of the diving ones at the time. I met some of the ones that had retired and were the ones sorting the sea creatures that they'd found and the seaweed, etc. But I've been lucky enough to meet them. They are incredible women. I also have another one of her books, I didn't realise. Snowflower and the Secret Fan. I had that too. Anyway, back on track with this. You follow Young-suk as she grows up. You follow her life and her friendship with Mija, who... Okay, we're going to go into spoiler territory. I 100% am going to spoil a lot of things in this book. So if you do not want spoilers, you're going to have to swipe away. Because I know I'm going to spoil something in this book, whether I mean to or not. So I will warn now. You follow Young-suk and Mija and their friendship. And like in the Beast of a Little Land, where you have Jade and Lotus, who are friends. And then they eventually like stop being friends. It's similar here. But I think it's slightly more heartbreaking. Because they are so close and they do so much together. They learn to dive together, they become Haenyeo together. And they go to Vladivostok. I didn't know that Haenyeo went to Vladivostok to train, not to train, but to like outside of Korea work. And they would like go swim in seas that way. I didn't know that, but like reading this and like I did research around it and it's really cool to see. And then how they get married. Mija is the daughter of her father was a collaborator with the Japanese, so she wasn't viewed well by the island people. by the Jeju people. And she ends up getting married to a collaborator's and the son, who doesn't treat her very well at all throughout the book. Young-suk at first is really annoyed, like really jealous, because she thought Sangmun, who is the Mija's future husband, was very handsome, and she wondered if he was interested in her. And Mija doesn't talk about what happened like when they first met. And so like Young-suk is like, oh, she's just trying to protect me, but like I'm jealous of her. Anyway, she gets married to one of the Haenyeo in her group, her collective, is son, who has been like going to school and everything and becomes a teacher. And they have a really happy marriage together. And like they seem very in love. And Mija is not in love with Sangmun, like they don't. Sangmun is very abusive towards her. And like the Mija's mother-in-law and father-in-law blame her for not having not being able to have children. So she comes back to Jeju, because they go to Jeju City and then the mainland. So like Busan, I think, but I can't remember exactly. And then they come back to Jeju so that she can do a fertility ritual to see if that will help, because Mija still believes in all of that, because she'd grown up on Jeju with her aunt and uncle, and then with Young-suk and her mother. And they both get pregnant, etc. And like they believe that their children are going to grow up together and get married. Unfortunately, the 4-3 incident and the surrounding of that, unfortunately, Young-suk's husband Junbu gets killed, as does their youngest son. I think it's the youngest son or the oldest son. One of the sons gets killed. Obviously, Young-suk is heartbroken and she doesn't want to continue, but she manages to escape that incident. And it was like the worst one. Was it the Bucheon? I think it was the Bucheon Massacre. And again, I didn't know much about Jeju's 4-3 incident. Like, I knew it had happened, and I was silly enough not to go to the museum when I was on Jeju Island. I do want to go back to Jeju, and I do want to go meet the Haenyeo again. And I do want to go to that museum. But I definitely cried during this book, because like, and I was like sat there shocked as well throughout the book, because this book is like one moment, like one page or one chapter is like really happy and like everyone's happy, and then the next like something dreadful and terrible happens, and you're like sat in shock. And there's a very specific page. I know I circled it. Yeah. I circled it, and then I was like, I was like babbling like an idiot after this page, because I was just in shock. Like, you can see here that I've kind of circled it. I can't explain this book, because she asks Mija to help her, because Sangmun like is higher up and like is able to talk with. By this point, it is the Korean government. It is not the Japanese collaborators. It's in the 1940s, 50s. Let me see, because it says at the start of the chapters. 49. Yeah, page 231 is the one that like will break you. And like even that, the whole chapter Life-Giving Air, because it has like actual names of the chapters. It doesn't have like chapter 1, chapter 2. It has actual names. And basically she asked Mija to ask Sangmun to save them, or like to save one child of theirs. And this is like where their friendship ends, basically, because Mija just doesn't. Like, she goes to Sangmun and then they just don't help. The way the story starts, and this is obviously where Junbu dies on this page, and so does their son, one of the sons, and the sister-in-law. So she loses 3 people, and 3 is like a massive, very important number on Jeju, because it's like the connection of wind, sea, and wind, sea, sky, wind, sea, Hala Mountain. It's definitely wind, sea, and then something else. But there's a really big connection of 3s in this book. And the way the book starts is like Mija's family. Mija passed away because it's 2008, so like Young-suk is like 90 something at this point. And Mija passed away, and she left letters for Young-suk to find in her house, which Young-suk, I can't remember if she read them or not, but I think she started to or didn't. Anyway, one of the daughters, the youngest daughter of Young-suk, marries Mija's son, which Young-suk stops talking to that daughter because of that. Because she's like, I don't want anything to do with Mija. I don't want anything to do with her at all. So she doesn't go to the wedding. She doesn't go and visit them in America, even though she goes to visit other family in America. And so Mija eventually dies, and her grandchildren and her daughter and her grandchildren? No, her great-grandchildren it must be. It's either her grandchildren or great-grandchildren. They come and find Young-suk. And they they don't chase her around for 3 or 4 days, but they like follow her and like find her. Yeah, is it the great-granddaughter? She has tried to learn Jeju Korean, so Jeju Ma, because it's a different dialect and almost like a different language. And Mija, she has recorded Mija speaking and saying how she feels about their friendship ending. And it's like I'm gonna cry because it was like a really heartbreaking ending, because like Young-suk is like, I didn't realize, like, and it talks a lot about like forgiveness at the end, and like she never wanted to forgive Mija, and then at the end she's like, oh, because like the young girl who like kind of shows Young-suk the Mija's messages is like wanting to know more, but also is like, can you teach me to swim? Can you teach me? And the ending is so beautiful. I'm probably gonna cry reading it because like it was such a powerful, beautiful ending. Young-suk pulls out the earbuds. She looks from the girl to her mother and back to the letters. Her heart is cracking open. Maybe she won't be able to bear it. A good woman is a good mother. She had tried to live by those words and had prided herself on all she'd done for her children. Now she sees that Mija tried to do the same, but with tragic results. She feels excruciating pain as decades of sorrow, anger and regret she's carried within her begin to shatter and melt. My grandmother never stopped loving you, Janet says. She accepted what she did, and she wanted you to know everything. This we've brought you. For years, people have pestered Young-suk to tell her story. She's always she said no, but now the people asking carry within them the blood of Mija and Young-suk. Yes, she'll finally tell her story. She'll tell them about the pain she endured, but also about her closed heart that could not forgive. Clara drops to her knees. Does this beach have any food? This question is as old as the first Haenyeo, and Clara must have learned it from her other great-grandmother. Her other great-grandma. Young-suk finds herself smiling. How could she not be transported back to the relationship she had with their closest friend, right on this beach, as they'd learned to swim, play, and love together? More food than 30 refrigerators in my grandmother's house, she answers, adding, if she'd had a refrigerator. Then, will you take us into the sea, Clara asks. Will you teach us? Young-suk doesn't hesitate. Have you brought something to swim in? Clara grins up at her mother, who grins right back. Each of them shrugs a shoulder to reveal the brightly coloured straps of their bathing suits. A breath, a breath, a breath. Yeah, I definitely am like ready to cry. Because it was like such a bittersweet ending, in that she never gets to like reunite with Mija even. And even her child who married Mija's son. And like, I made so many notes of this page, and maybe one day I'll go through them because there's so much to this. It's like an incredible book. Like, I'm not done with talking about it. Like, I have a whole page, but like that was like the basic, like that was the run through of it. So basically, like, the whole book covers a range of topics, which is obviously the Haenyeo, which are the divers of Jeju. And slowly, there are becoming less and less of them due to rules and laws that were put in, like only one Haenyeo per household, which I don't think is in effect anymore. But also, it's not seen as profitable, so people don't do it. It's dangerous. Like, obviously, you can die from it, from doing it. So there's not as much reason to be a Haenyeo, but it's a dying part of the Jeju culture. It obviously covers the 4-3 incident in graphic detail. Like, this book does cover a range of heavy topics, which hopefully I've put at the start. It covers obviously the Japanese occupation and then the present day Haenyeo, the decline of them. It covers how the government acted in the 1940s and 50s and 60s, and even up to like the present day, 2008. So it obviously has some very heavy themes: occupation, colonization, the struggle of traditional ways, bonds of family and friends. Like, you get to see how close the Haenyeo are with each other, how they protect each other, but also how there's different collectives and they don't cross boundaries, how traditional ways slowly die out for many different reasons: colonization, modernization, urbanization, simply due to laws being put in, and like how those things disappear. This book doesn't like hide away from what happened. It describes it in detail. It paints a very vivid picture of what the people of Jeju went through. It's definitely a book to take your time reading. And what was really beautiful about it was, obviously it's a book about the ocean. And what I found is that the writing of this book acted like the ocean. It was dipping into topics. It was like the waves coming and going back and forth from past to present. It was some chapters, like some days, calm and pretty and fun and beautiful, and like a stormy day, it was bad and it was dark and it was dangerous and it killed people. And this book has that rhythm to it, that it's like the ocean. That some days it's terrible and some days it's beautiful, but it is the ocean. And it was like a thought that kept coming in my head as I was reading it. I was like, surely I'm looking too much into it, but you know, some books are crafted to be masterpieces in that sense. What was interesting is it looked at the colonization through the victim's eyes. This one, you lived every moment of it through the victim. And you saw the after effects through the victim. And you looked at how it changed from the Japanese colonizer to the Korean government under American ideas and under American ideology and under American guidance, and how the atrocities happened. And I know somewhere I put about it. I highlighted it because it was a beautiful line about colonization. I mean, even going back to the tradition. You hear how Young-suk says, so much changed so fast with sun settling, and it undermined our way of life, our beliefs, and our traditions. So, like, you see through the eyes of the native people, the colonized, how it affects them. Oh, I want to find... Actually, there's multiple quotes that I could talk about. But there's a very specific one. Found it. Okay, page 154. It's only taking me like 4 minutes to find it. And it's literally a simple line. But let me actually read a few other bits, because the one line I actually put was, one colonizer had been replaced by another. The actual kind of paragraph was, we thought we were free, but so far the only difference in our lives here on Jeju was that the Japanese flag was lowered and the American flag was raised. One colonizer had been replaced by another. And I put, like, one country may believe they are saving the other, and maybe the new one is the lesser of two evils, but to the colonized, it must seem like one endless colonization. The never-ending shadow of a colonizer, like the never-ending oppression. It was kind of interesting. Definitely very interesting to see. This was, like, before the Bucheon incident. American soldiers found nearly 100 bodies in a mountain village, while another group of their soldiers stumbled across the execution of 76 men, women, and children in a different village. The Americans may not have actively participated in the atrocities. They did nothing to prevent them either. And I think that's, like, it's very informative about, you may not be the one committing the atrocity, but if you're the bystander, you're just as bad, if not worse. And it's still the same for today with the issues going on in the world today, like not standing up for different countries that are being oppressed, or different countries that are under attack, or having atrocities done against them. Ignoring it, turning a blind eye, is just as bad, if not worse, than what is happening to them. It was interesting to read this. This book is very good for reminding you colonization and oppression happened and is happening and continues to happen. A lot of people talk about, like, oh, how these people that are having so many bad things happen to them are so very strong. They're so brave. They're heroes, and of course they are. But then this line, this was not a display of optimism. We were just trying to stay alive. How it was either they die or they stay alive and keep going. That was it. That's your two options. This book is incredible for actually opening your eyes to everything. I enjoyed the past and present aspects of it, where you continuously go back and forth between 2008 and throughout her life. It definitely shows the way her heart changes, it shows the way her view changes, and it shows how she has grown throughout her life and why she's at this moment in 2008 where she has a closed heart until the very end. I also, again, like with The Last Tiger and with The Beast of Little Land, very much so that there was this whole theme of nature and how connected the Koreans are to nature, especially here in Jeju. There was the constant reminder of the Hala Mountain, Hala volcano, Halasan, and how you have the grandmother goddess that was it Assumption and Harmony, I think, that created everything, and how Jeju provides, the water provides, but it also can take away. The very connection of nature and constantly always nature. And finally, like going back to the pacing of this book, how yes, it's like the sea, but it's also as if you're there in the acts. Like page 232, which is the one that like I sat staring at my wall afterwards. 231 and 232. 232, there's nothing there. 230, 231. 223 to like 231. It's quick and it's brutal, just like it would have been, I'm assuming. The incident, the Bucheon Massacre, I'm assuming it's Bucheon. I'm going off the assumption because I feel like it was that one. I could be wrong. I'm happy I'm correcting myself in editing if I am wrong. But it was quick and it was fast-paced and it was brutal, and the writing in those pages was fast-paced and brutal. You have them running, and then you have them cornered, and then you have them sat down, and then you have Young-suk pleading with Mija, and then you have 3 of her family members dead, and then you have her running, and you're like, what's happening? And then like when they're in the waves, it's like more calm and more peaceful, and then when there's like danger within the waves, it's suddenly quick again. The word pacing and the way the book is written is very clever. So Lisa C, absolutely incredible work. I've been talking about this book for half an hour. I could talk about it for another half an hour if I like had the time and the space and the energy. Like I could continue talking about this book for hours. It was an incredible book. I recommend it. It is hard hitting. It tells you a lot of what happened, and I think it's getting it for £1 in a charity shop. This is a book I would have paid full price for, due to just how amazing it was, and I highly recommend it. So if you've read it, let me know what you thought. If you're thinking of read it, and yeah, I hope you enjoy reading it if you read it or have read it. Other than that, I will talk to you soon. Let me know what you've been reading. Talk to you soon.